this tutorial, I'm going to show you two different ways of doing corner to corner. The one is the regular corner to corner that most people may have heard of and see passing. This is the corner to corner that most people use. It uses double crochets or treble crochets depending on where you're from. This is the bigger sized version. Both use a 4mm hook. So you can see the difference here. This is called mini corner to corner, and it's called that for a reason, because the end result is a lot smaller. They're both the same amount of stitches, but this is just ends up smaller, even though the same yarn is used and the same hook size is used. Well, why is this relevant? Some people may want to make a wall hanging of this mall, and then the mini corner to corner produces a bit more dense fabric that has less holes and is also a bit less drapey. So if you want a blanket to lay under, then the regular corner to corner is probably your choice. If you want to make a rug, or you want to make a wall hanging, or you just want the end result to be a bit smaller and denser, you can use mini corner to corner. In this tutorial, I will show you both. We'll start with the regular corner to corner, and then we'll go to the mini corner to corner. I strongly recommend you to just try and make some swatches, at least of both techniques, and preferably also with a smaller hook size and a larger hook size. You can leave your balls of yarn attached to your swatches. You can put little notes on them like I've done here, so you can really compare them and decide what tension, what hook size, what version of corner to corner has your preference for this project. It may seem like a lot of work now, but it gets you used to the technique, and it also ensures that you have the end result that you really want. With this tutorial, I hope you learn both techniques, both the corner to corner and the mini corner to corner. I hope you have fun doing it. If you need any help, you can find it in the YouTube comments or in the special Facebook groups. I wish you the best of luck, and I wish you a lot of fun. Don't forget to enjoy this process of making your swatches. To begin, we'll make a slip knot on the hook. People have many different ways of doing this. Please just use your own. The next thing we'll do is chain 6. A chain is one of the 3 stitches we will use during the corner to corner technique. To chain, you yarn over and you pull through the loop on your hook. That's 1 chain, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to make a double crochet into the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th chain from the hook. So what I do when I need to do this is I'm going to count my chains. The loop on the hook never counts for anything. It's just there. And then you see this V shape underneath it. That's 1 chain, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to keep my finger there so I know which chain it is that I need to go into. Then I'll yarn over, go into that chain, which I can handily see because my thumb's there. Then I yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I've got 3 loops on my hook. I will yarn over, go through 2 loops, and once more, yarn over and go through 2 loops. Now I'm gonna make a double crochet in the next chain. You see 2 sort of chains left here. Those are the 5th and the 6th chains. And if you're in doubt, never go into the big hole, but always go into the next. So yarn over, put your needle through the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. That's 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Then the last step of this row is again to yarn over, and then you go in through the last chain. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Now you've got 3 loops on your hook. And you yarn over, go through 2 loops, and again yarn over, go through 2 loops. That's it for your first block. And we're gonna talk about blocks quite a few times in this pattern, and the block usually consists of 3 double crochets and a chain 3 space. The chain 3 space is this more sort of curved edge of your block, and the double crochets form a more straight edge of your block. So now we're going to repeat those steps for the second row and add some at the end of it. We're going to chain 6 again. So remember, chain is just yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. I always run into the same problem that when I'm talking I cannot count, and vice versa. So when you have 6 chains, you're going to again look for the 4th chain from the hook. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm gonna keep my thumb underneath it so I know where to go into. I'll yarn over and go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. That's 1 double crochet. And then if you pay attention, you see 2 more chains in between what you're doing now and what you did in row 1. You need to double crochet in both of these chains one by one. So again, yarn over, go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And 1 more. This is sort of the line between the two blocks. And you make a double crochet into that stitch as well. Now we want to carry on, and this is a bit where lots of people have issues with corner to corner. And this is why I babbled a bit earlier about the straight edge of your block and the curved edge of your block. You see it here again, this is a curved edge and this is a straight edge. What you want is for your hook to end up next to the curved edge of this block, and therefore you have to flip it up. So this is your first block with your starting end yarn. You flip this one up so that your hook is next to the curved edge of this block. Because the curved edge is the chain 3 space, and this is the space in which we're going to make a slip stitch. That's the third and final stitch you need to know for this project. We had the chain, we had the double crochet, and now the slip stitch. For a slip stitch, you insert your hook, so you basically go underneath the curved part of this block, and then you yarn over, pull through the block or the stitch, and pull through the loop on your hook. That's a slip stitch. Then you're going to chain 3 and make 3 double crochet into this chain space. So not into a stitch really, but into this curved space. The idea is the same. You yarn over, put the needle into it, yarn over, pull up a thread, and then you finish your double crochet. So once more, yarn over, into the chain 3 space, yarn over, 3 loops on the hook, go through 2, go through 2, and once more into that same space. So what you see now is that you've made 2 blocks this round, or this row. This is a block and this is a block. And this is the block of the first row. For the third row, we're going to do something very similar, hoping that you get the hang of it. We will start with chaining 6. Then again, we'll look for the 4th chain from the hook. Loop on the hook doesn't count. You look for the V shapes. So this is 1, 2, 3, and number 4. Yarn over, into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and through 2. Yarn over, into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over into the last chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Now we have the same issue that we've got nowhere to go with our lovely crochet, so we need to flip this up. You want to end up near the chain space of the previous block. So this is the block you're currently working on. It's attached to the last block of the last row. So you want to flip it in a way that your hook ends up near the 3 chain space. That's this one. We're going to make a slip stitch in it again. So you yarn over and pull through all. Then you do chain 3. And then you do 3 double crochets into that same space. Then we're going to make a slip stitch into the next chain 3 space. It's the curvy side of this block. It's the first block you made in the last row. Insert your hook and pull through. Chain 3. And then we're going to make 3 double crochet into that same chain 3 space. It's one of the things I love about the corner to corner technique is that you're mostly working in the chains or in the chain spaces and not into the stitches. We're going to make 2 more rows before I show you how to stop increasing, just to get a hang of this technique a bit more. We'll start again with 6 chain. And with looking at the 4th chain from the hook. I'm hoping this is getting a little bit boring by now. I do apologize, but I do think it's useful to make a bit of a swatch so you can also measure it. If it's too small, you can't measure it. After you chain 6, you do a double crochet in the 4th, 5th, and 6th chain from the hook, as you've done 3 times before. Then you need to flip your work again. So you need to bring your last block, the chain space of that, you need to bring it up in order to be able to make a slip stitch into that chain 3 space. Then you will repeat the same sequence a few times. So you'll chain 3, you'll make 3 double crochet into that chain space. And then you will make a slip stitch into the next chain 3 space. We do this twice more. Chain 3 and then make 3 double crochet into that chain space you slip stitched into. Then you make a slip stitch in this chain 3 space, so at the top of the last block, and you do another chain 3 and 3 double crochet into the same space. There we are. That was row 4. For the 5th row, we're doing it again, and after that I promise you we'll do some new stuff. We'll begin with chaining 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. And also into the 5th chain from the hook. And into the 6th chain from the hook. Then you need to flip your work in order to end up at the curved chain 3 space of the previous block. Slip stitch into that, chain 3, and make 3 double crochet into that same chain 3 space. Slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, and make 3 double crochet into that space. Slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, and make 3 double crochets into that same space. It's a little bit like walking stairs because you're going up. Then we're going to make a slip stitch into the top one, chain 3, and do 3 double crochets into the same space. Now you've made a little triangle, and in the next steps we're going to make it square. To be able to see whether making it square is working for you, it's nice if you can count your blocks. And what do I mean with counting blocks? You've got 1 block here, 1 block here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. This is usually quite easy to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this direction, it's the same. It's also 5. It's a bit harder to count, but you see the spaces between the blocks. So this is 1, this is 1, this is 1, this is 1, and this is 1. It's important when you're at this stage of making your swatch that all sides have an equal amount of blocks. So they should have 5 blocks on each side. If that's not the case for you, please frog and try again to see if you can match them up before we continue. What we're going to do now is learning how to stop increasing or to decrease. The reason I say stop increasing is because what you could theoretically do is stop increasing on this side, but continue increasing on this side. And that would mean that you would continue making 5 blocks each row, and you would basically make a long strip. This is what we're going to do for this project. We're going to make strips that are 2 blocks high and then wider. But if you stop increasing on both sides, you're effectively decreasing. This sounds a bit finicky, but it's important to understand, I think. But I'm going to show you how you can stop increasing on this side now. To do so, you're going to chain 3. And then you're going to make a slip stitch into the chain 3 space of this same last block. Well, to be able to do that, you need to flip your work so your hook ends up next to the chain 3 space. So this is the situation. You've chained 3, you want to end up there. It's a bit finicky to do it like this. So you flip your work and then you make a slip stitch into this chain space. And now we're gonna walk the stairs again. So we're gonna chain 3 and make 3 double crochet into that same space. And then we're at the next little step. So we're gonna slip stitch into that chain space and chain 3 and make 3 double crochet into that same space. Also for the next. And also for the next. And then comes a point where my blah blah about increasing and decreasing becomes perhaps more obvious. If we want to make a square, then this is the point where we stop. We're not going to make an extra square here because that would be the 6th square here, and we only have 5 here. So if we were to make a rectangle, we could continue with making an extra block here. But we're not going to make a rectangle, we're going to make a square. So we are going to slip stitch into this final chain space. But then that's the end of our row because we've got 5 blocks here now. And we want to make a square. So you've made 4 blocks in this row. And then the next row is going to be only 3 blocks, and then only 2 blocks, and then only 1. And then we have our 5 by 5 square. Don't worry too much about it. I'll show you in the next row how we continue. For row 7, we're also going to start with a sort of decrease. We chain 3, we flip our work, and we make a slip stitch into the chain space of the last block we made in the previous row. Then we're going to chain 3 again and make 3 double crochet into that chain space. Slip stitch into the next chain space, chain 3, make 3 double crochet into the same chain space, slip stitch into the next, chain 3, make 3 double crochet into that space, and make a slip stitch into the next chain space. So this row only had 3 blocks to be able to make our square. This row also starts with a decrease, so we're not starting with chain 6, but with only chain 3. We're flipping our work, slip stitching into the chain space of the last block we made. Then we chain 3, make 3 double crochet into that same chain space, a slip stitch into the next chain space, chain 3, 3 double crochet into the space, and a slip stitch into the next. Now our square is almost done. The last row has one sort of new step, so please pay attention. We're going to chain 3. We're going to slip stitch into the chain space of the last block. We're going to chain 3, make 3 double crochet into that same chain space. Then we're going to make a slip stitch into the next chain space, and this is the place where a lot of people fasten off. I think they are missing a step, because if you look closely at the border here, I'm drawing them out a little bit, you see chain 3 spaces on every block. If we were to stop here at this point in our crochet, then this would miss a chain 3 space, even though the rest of the edge on this side has that. I don't think that's pretty, so what I always do is chain 3 and then make a slip stitch into that chain space. And that ensures that all these blocks on the edge have the same look and feel. It also enables you in other parts to actually make 3 double crochet into this space again. But it just looks better because this edge also has chain 3 spaces all the way along the edge. So I think it just looks prettier. So whenever you fasten off, make sure you fasten off on a corner of your panels or of your strips and not on just some random place. It's always the corner where you fasten off for this entire project. To fasten off, you chain 1 and then you cut your yarn. If this is your swatch, you don't have to cut your yarn. If you want to use it for your project, then just leave it be. And then you have your 5 by 5 little square. The next step would be to take a stitch marker and a little bit of paper and write down which hook size it was that you used for this swatch. So in my case, that's 4.0 millimeters. I poke a little hole with the stitch marker and I attach this to my work. This may seem a bit silly, but what I really strongly recommend you to do is to make a few swatches. Doesn't have to be with the same color. If you want to leave the ball of yarn attached, you can use a different color. But what I want you to do is go through this process again. You can just rewind the video and watch it again. And make it with a sorry, make it with a smaller hook size and also make it with a slightly bigger hook size. That can help you determine what your tension for this project should be. Whether you want it to be tighter, whether you want it to be looser, or whether you are happy with this result. The only way to do this is to make multiple swatches. Even if you've used this yarn before, please go through this process. It only takes you, 20 minutes or something to make this. It gets you used to the technique a bit more as well, with when to flip and when to do slip stitches and when to remember that you end up in a corner. If you do this, then you can very nicely determine how big of a hook you want to use. And if you've decided which hook you want to use, please open a notes app or something in your phone, or put a little piece of paper in your bag with the project and write down what you decided to do. So I'll do this also with a 3.5 and with a 4.5, and then I'll compare and I'll look at the fabric. Does it feel nice? Is it soft or is it very stiff? Is it very gappy or is it acceptable to me? That's a personal thing. You can also look at the measurements. So if you've bought a yarn package, that you're sure that you don't run out of yarn. If you use a lot more yarn, or if your tension sample is a lot bigger or a lot smaller, you may end up with a different result than what you wanted. Now I'm going to show you how to do mini corner to corner. You start off with a slip knot. Everybody does this in a different way, so please don't pay too much attention to how I do it. Do it your preferred way. We start with a slip knot, and then this technique consists of 3 different stitches. You've got chain stitches, you've got half double crochets, I think that's UK half treble, but please just watch my hands to see what I'm doing, and then there's slip stitches. We're going to start with 5 chain, or chain 5. So for a chain you yarn over and you pull through the loop on your hook. So that's 5. Now we're going to make a half double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook, in the 4th chain from the hook, and in the 5th chain from the hook. So how do you see what the 3rd chain from the hook is? The loop on your hook doesn't count. And then you've got these little V shapes lying underneath it. So that's chain 1, 2, and number 3. I keep my thumb here so that when I turn my work, I will still remember where to put my needle into my hook. So to make a half double, I yarn over, I go into that chain stitch that I have my thumb under, I yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I've got 3 loops on my hook, and then I yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's 1 half double crochet. Now I'm going to yarn over, go into the next chain, so you see that this has become a very big hole, and then the next V shape is the next chain. That's where I want to end up in. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I've got 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Now I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to look for the last chain. So you've got this little slip knot here, and then the chain is right in front of that. So I insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, and then I'm gonna yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So this is my first mini corner to corner block. For the second row, we're going to start with the exact same steps as what we did for the first row. So we're going to chain 5. And then we're going to look for the 3rd chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3. Going to yarn over and make a half double crochet into that 3rd chain. That's 1. And that's 2, and that's 3. So again, you're going to make 3 half double crochets into the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th chain from the hook. So you've mirrored these steps. Now this is the part where it becomes confusing for some people, because you want your hook to end up next to this chain space here. That's the skipped chains of the first block. And in order to get there with your hook, you need to flip this block up. So this is the position it was probably in. You're looking for the curved edge of the first block. So this is the straight edge. This is the curved edge. And you want to flip that up so that your hook ends up next to it. And then we're going to make a slip stitch into it. It's the third and last type of stitch we're using for this mini corner to corner technique. So you insert your hook, yarn over, and immediately pull through the chain space and through the loop on your hook. And now you're in the position to make your next block. And in order to do that, you chain 2. And then you're going to make 3 half double crochets into that same chain space. So yarn over, into the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, and then that was your first half double. We're going to do that again. This is the second half double crochet, and again. This is the third half double crochet. Now you've made 2 mini corner to corner blocks in this row and 1 in the first. For the third row, we're going to start with chain 5. We're going to look for the third chain from the hook, and we're going to make a half double crochet into it. Just like you've done at the start of the first row and at the start of the second row. We're going to make another half double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook and another into the 5th. This is sort of the crossover area between previous block and the current block. There's 1 chain left there, and that gets a half double crochet. Now you want to end up on the curved bit of this again. So on the chain space of the last block of the previous round. And in order to get there, you again have to flip up this bit of crochet so that your hook sort of automatically ends up next to this chain space. You're going to insert your hook and make a slip stitch into this chain space. And now we're gonna chain 2 and make 3 half double crochets into that same chain space. So this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Now we're gonna slip stitch into the chain space of the next block. And it's a little bit like walking stairs with this technique. We're going to chain 2, make 3 half double crochets into this chain space. So this is 1, 2, and 3. And now we have this very cute little square, triangle with 3 blocks on the bottom, 3 blocks above each other, and 3 blocks diagonally. Now we're going to make 2 more rows of this in order to be able to compare with the normal sized corner to corner swatch that we did. So we're going to start with chain 5. Then we're going to make a half double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook, into the 4th chain from the hook, and into the 5th chain from the hook. Then we're going to flip our work so that we can start climbing the chair again. Not the chair, the stairs. You're gonna make a slip stitch into this chain space, chain 2, make 3 half double crochet into this chain space, then make a slip stitch into the next chain space, chain 2, and make 3 half double crochet into this chain space. Slip stitch into the last chain space, chain 2, and make 3 half double crochet into this chain space. Now your 4th row is done, and it consists of 4 very cute little blocks. For the 5th row, we're going to do the same process. The next row, we're going to do something different again. For this one, we start with 5 chain, and then a half double into the 3rd chain from the hook, the 4th chain from the hook, and the 5th chain from the hook. Then we're going to make a slip stitch into this chain space after we flipped our work so that we can run up the stairs again. Chain 2, make 3 half double crochet, slip stitch into the next chain space, chain 2, make 3 half double crochet into the chain space, slip stitch into the next, chain 2, make 3 half double crochet into this chain space, and then finally slip stitch into the last chain space, chain 2, and make 3 half double crochet into this same space. Now you've got 5 blocks diagonally, 5 blocks vertically, and also 5 blocks horizontally. If that's not correct, then the next step is going to be difficult, so please frog and try again until you have the same amount of blocks on each side of your triangle. Now we're going to decrease or stop increasing on this side. I'm a bit finicky with the terms of stopping to increase or decreasing, because if you stop increasing here, but you keep increasing here, then there keeps on being 5 blocks. So you're not actually decreasing, you're just keeping the same number. If you decrease on both sides, then you're actually decreasing, because then there's less blocks. In order to do this, you chain 2, and then you want to make a slip stitch into the chain space of your last block. In order to do that, you need to flip your work again to make a slip stitch into that same chain space of the same block. Then you're gonna chain 2 and make 3 half double crochet into that same chain space. And what it effectively has done is that you haven't increased a block here, but that you've just made the next block. Then you're going to slip stitch into the chain space, chain 2, make 3 half double crochet into this chain space, just like you've done before. Make a slip stitch, chain 2, make 3 half double crochet into this. Oh no, a blooper. Make 3 half double crochets into this chain space, slip stitch into the next, chain 2, 3 half double crochets in here. And this is the point where all my blah blah about increasing or decreasing becomes relevant. If you want to make a square, which is what we're doing, we want to make 5 in this direction and 5 in this direction, then you need to just make a slip stitch here, but do not make another block, because then that would mean this becomes 6 high instead of 5. So pay careful attention what the dimensions of the block or square or thing you're going to make. I think I call them panels in the rest of the project. So the panel you're going to make. The panels you're going to make in the mall are only too high. So we're making a bit of a weird shape, but I thought making it too high would be more difficult with measuring. This is why we're making a 5 by 5 little square, which you're never going to do in the actual mall, but this teaches you the technique anyway. For the next row, we're going to chain 2. We're going to go into the chain space of the last block you made and make a slip stitch. And in order to do that, you need to turn your work. So we're going to make a slip stitch there. And then we're going to walk some stairs again by making chain 2, 3 half double crochets, and a slip stitch into the next. And then chain 2, make 3 half double crochets, and then do a slip stitch. And then again, chain 2, make 3 half double crochets, and then we make another slip stitch into the next block. We're not going to make another block because then our square shape will become really weird. We're nearly there. We're going to chain 2, flip it over so that we end up with our hook next to the last chain space, make a slip stitch in it, chain 2, make 3 half double crochets into that chain space. Then we're going to slip stitch into the next chain space, chain 2, make 3 half doubles into that next space, and then make a slip stitch into the next chain space. And then there's only one more row to go. Now we're going to chain 2, make a slip stitch into the chain space of the last block, chain 2, make 3 half double crochets into this same chain space. And now please pay attention, because this slip stitch is not the last step. It will be weird to end up on an edge. It would also mean that your edge is not even, because there's chain 2 spaces around this edge, and then here there wouldn't be. I want to make one. I always want to end up in a corner of a panel or of whatever you're making with corner to corner. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to make a slip stitch into that last chain space of the last block you made. And then you're ready to make chain and fasten off. If you don't want to use up this yarn for swatches, then please just leave the ball of yarn attached. Now, what I recommend you do is make a little bit of paper and write down that you did mini corner to corner and that you used a 4mm hook or whatever hook size you were using with your yarn. Then get yourself a stitch marker and put it on there. You can just push the stitch marker through the bit of paper and then attach it to your work. This may seem silly, but it helps you determine whether you want to start doing mini corner to corner or regular corner to corner and what hook size to use. By now, you should have made some swatches. At least one in the corner to corner technique and one in the mini corner to corner technique. But hopefully you've made a few more with different hook sizes to get you familiar with the stitch, but also to get you familiar with your own tension for this stitch pattern. Once you've finished a few of them, please let them rest for a little bit and go have a cup of coffee or make some dinner or work on a different crochet project, and then come back an hour or so later. Sometimes crochet has the ability to shrink a lot when you just leave it be for a little bit, and that might change your opinion on what you want to do with this project. So don't go measuring or feeling immediately after you've made it, because it tends to be a bit more compact after a while. Then you're going to feel and look at your swatches and think, what will work for me, for my project? It might be different if you want a blanket, then you might want it to make it a bit more drapey. Or when you want to make a wall hanging and you want to make it a bit more stiff or more condensed, as it were. So whatever you choose for your project is really personal. Something to keep in mind is that the video tutorials for the entire project will be done in the corner to corner stitch, not in the mini. The picture tutorials will also be in the corner to corner stitch and not in the mini. It would be too much work for me to do all of that. So if you're a beginner, or if you're not quite sure about your crochet capabilities, please pick the corner to corner, not the mini. You can leave the mini, do the project again when you've got the hang of it. So for the mini, I will give you the amount of blocks, because that will be exactly the same, but there won't be a step-by-step tutorial as there will be for the corner to corner. So that might be something to take into account as well. Once you've chosen your hook size, please write it down somewhere, and also write down whether you've chosen the corner to corner technique or the mini corner to corner technique. If you've written that down for your tension, for your yarn, for whatever you've chosen, then you're ready to start the actual project. I would love to see a picture of all your swatches, because that just looks really colorful usually. And then you can also prove to me that you've done your homework before starting this MAL. I'm really happy to be doing this with you, and you'll see me in the next video when we actually get started on this wonderful project.